presentation. I'm going to go ahead and record. So our objective for today is going to be to provide you with an overview of how to access and complete all the different tabs within the 23-24 SPSA. We'll also give an overview of the SPSA and categorical budget submission and approval process. We'll also review with you the comments process. And lastly, we'll share some SPSA and budget development resources. Now, for those of you who are new to the SPSA, you can access the SPSA from our federal and state education programs homepage. The link is included on this slide. Once you're on the homepage, follow those 3 steps. Number 1, click on School Plan for Student Achievement in the left navigation menu. From the drop-down selection, click on Online SPSA, and then Launch Online SPSA Template. On the login screen, type in your single sign-on, enter your password, and click on Login. Then select your school cost center. If you're assigned to more than one location, otherwise you'll just see the one school listed. And then select the school year and click on Go. And right now it automatically defaults to the 23-24 school year. Now, after logging in, your school is going to display in the plan dashboard page. And the first tab to complete in the template is going to be your school identification page. The school administrator should verify that the information on this page is accurate and update it as necessary. If the school needs to update the SPSA contact, the principal or AP can delete an existing contact person by clicking on the Delete Contact button, which will then give you a pop-up window asking you to confirm that you want to delete the existing contact. And once that's clicked on, it will delete the contact person and their email from the identification page. To add an SPSA contact, the administrator can click on the Add Contact button, type in the first name and the last name of the person they're searching for. A list displaying the names typed in is going to appear, and then they would select the button next to the name of the contact person they would like to add and save and close. Once that information is saved, the SPSA contact person's name and email will display on the school identification page. When the new SPSA contact is saved, he or she will also automatically be added as a designee in the list of designees link. And likewise, when a contact is deleted, they'll also be automatically deleted from the designee list. The principal or AP are also the only staff who can add or delete a designee. To add or remove a designee, the principal or AP can click on the List of Designees button on the school identification page. And then to add a designee, the administrator can click on Find User and then search for the person by entering the first name, last name, or both. Then the administrator can click on the search button to find a list of matching names. Once that person is located, they click on the Select button and then Add User. And a date and timestamp will display when a designee has been added. Now, as a reminder to schools, you cannot select an AP as a designee because the AP has the same user role as the principal and therefore has automatic access to the SPSA as long as he or she is assigned to your school's location code. So you won't even see the select button available. Now, the one exception to this tends to be your APEIS. They're assigned to the local or the regional cost center instead of your school location code, since they work with multiple school sites in most cases. So APEIS will not have direct access to the SPSA. Now, the next tab to complete in the plan is the Recommendations and Assurances tab. If the school is required to have an English Language Advisory Committee or ELAC, you enter the date of recommendations from ELAC and type in the name of the ELAC chairperson. If the ELAC is not applicable for your school, the school can click on the NA box. And then when the school saves, any required fields that have not been completed are going to display in orange. Now, if other committees provided recommendations during the SPSA development, you can type in the name of the committee and click on the Add button to add those additional committees. The administrator will also complete the SSC information, including the date the SPSA was approved by School Site Council, the SSC chairperson name, the date the SSC chairperson approved or declined to sign, and then check the applicable box for either chairperson approved or declined to sign. And then finally, the principal will enter the date of their approval and check the e-signature box and save. Now, the next tab is the funding allocated to school tab, which displays each categorical fund's allocation. All non-pilot schools begin with $2 allocations in each fund. And then starting this past November 1st, schools were able to start adding purchases in the SPSA. Now, initially, the school's pending distribution line on their budget summary page will likely show a negative if a school starts budgeting items in the plan at this point until they actually receive their actual allocation from budget services, which we're anticipating will happen sometime in the next week or two. Now, schools can add other programs as well on this funding allocation tab other than the categorical programs that are listed there by just clicking on the Add New Other Programs button, entering the allocation amount, and then saving. But this is strictly optional. Schools are not required to reflect other funding programs on this tab. Now, the next tab schools will see is the right below this funding allocation tab is the budget summary tab. And as a reminder, if you attended some of our other trainings, that used to be the old dollar bill symbol and the top ribbon on the dashboard. Now we've made that into a separate tab right below the funding allocation tab. And on this budget summary tab, the school doesn't enter any information, but can view all items that are budgeted in the SPSA by categorical program. Now, I mentioned earlier that non-pilot schools will initially show a negative in pending distribution, and even our pilot schools as well, if you don't have your full allocation and you start budgeting right now, this is what it would look like if you had a negative. You can see that in the pending distribution line, it will be highlighted in red and it'll show a negative balance amount. Again, once you receive your actual allocation, as long as you haven't over budgeted, that should clear up. Now, for those of you who are new to this budget summary tab, it's organized by categorical program, such as 7S046 or 7E046, and it lists all the budget items that are budgeted in the plan and the total amount for each. And at the very bottom, the green line shows your school's allocation, and right above that is your pending distribution balance, which is reduced each time a budget item is purchased in the plan. Now, again, we mentioned that you might right now see negative balances in your pending distribution if you start budgeting in the plan until you get your actual allocation. But once Budget Services releases the actual allocations and those are reflected in the SPSA, then a school cannot have a negative balance in their pending distribution. The school will not be able to submit its SPSA for final approval until it removes that negative balance in pending. Your pending distribution balance must be either zero or a positive balance that's no greater than $100. Now, the next tab is the school vision, mission, and profile description. And on here, you're going to enter your school vision and mission statements and complete questions 1 through 8. For question number 7, which asks you to describe other important characteristics about your school, Just know that our federal and state education programs department will automatically check off the ATSI or CSI designations for schools that are identified by the state for additional or comprehensive supports. But all the other checkboxes there are selectable by the school. At minimum, we ask that the schools check off the very first box at the top for school-wide program or SWP, because all of you are school-wide program Title I schools. And then if you don't see a program there that reflects something you're doing at your school site, you have the option to add a new program at the bottom by clicking on Add New Programs and entering that program. Now, the next tab is going to be your school review process recommendations, which is required for high schools. It's strictly optional for elementary and middle schools. In fact, we're hiding it all together for elementary schools because they're not required to address it. We do have some middle schools that do address the WASC recommendations. But if it doesn't apply to a middle school, they can check off the NA box. For high schools, you can indicate the school review process, enter WASC accreditation results, and then fill in the recommendations text box. It is recommended when possible to connect the strategies written in the plan to the WASC recommendations that are listed here. The next tab in the plan is the comprehensive needs assessment. Here, schools select all committees or groups that participated in the needs assessment as part of the SPSA development. You select the committees or groups from a drop-down list, describe what happened, select the dates that those meetings occurred, and save that information. At minimum, your comprehensive needs assessment tab should reflect ELAC recommendations to school site council for the SPSA and budget development, and SSC approval of the SPSA and budget. So at minimum, we would expect that those two committees are reflected and that you reflect recommendations from ELAC and SSC approval of the plan and budget. The next tab is the Resource Inequities and Evidence-Based Interventions tab. The top section is your resource inequities, where the school will identify actionable inequities at the school site, which inequities are priorities for the school to address, how those inequities will be addressed, and if it's applicable, any inequities identified that are not actionable at the school level. This section below that is the evidence-based intervention section. And here schools will identify focus student groups, as well as California dashboard indicators that are specifically addressed by the intervention that's selected. You'll also identify the evidence rating for the intervention selected, either strong, moderate, promising, or demonstrates a rationale. And you'll describe your evidence-based intervention as well as how it's going to be evaluated and monitored. Now, you have the option to add a new evidence-based intervention by clicking on the Add New button. The minimum requirement is one evidence-based intervention in the plan. But if you do elect to add multiple interventions, each one should be on a separate page. And just know that you'll get additional guidance on resource inequities and evidence-based interventions at your regional trainings as well. Now, the next set of tabs in the plan will be the pillar pages. For those of you who've attended some of the regional trainings that have been held recently, as a reminder, the pillar pages are replacing the current goal pages in the new 23-24 SPSA template. So as a refresher, we've added a tab for academic excellence, which is pillar number 1 in the new strategic plan. When you click on that academic excellence tab, a drop-down of sub-pillars will appear, including graduation, college, career, which is replacing the current 100% graduation and beyond. You'll also have ELA, math, EL programs, and the new one that we added, other academic content, which is intended to give schools the opportunity to address content areas like social science or science, for example, if there's a need identified as part of your comprehensive needs assessment process. There will also be a tab for pillar number 2, Joy and Wellness, which replaces the old 100% attendance, suspension, and other supports. And a tab for pillar number 3, Engagement and Collaboration, which replaces the previous parent engagement goal page. Now, all of these pillar pages have a very similar layout. So in the next set of slides, I'm going to illustrate that layout using the graduation, college, and career pillar within academic excellence as an example of how to complete each of these pillar pages. Within the pillar page, schools will first select all data sources reviewed from a drop-down menu to address that pillar. The selected data sources are going to display with a check mark beside each one, and then they'll populate in the box. Now, if you don't see the data source reviewed in the drop-down menu, a school has the option to add their own by typing in the name of the data source and then clicking the Add New button. That's not automatically going to populate it in the box. When you add new, the typed in data source will appear at the bottom of the drop-down menu, and then you have to select it in order for it to populate in the box. And then right below that data source selection will be question number 1, data analysis and key findings related to the data that you reviewed, and question number 2, root cause analysis, which again ties to that data that was analyzed. These 2 questions will be required for each pillar page. The one exception is that graduation, college, and career will be optional for elementary and middle schools. So those grade spans will not be required to address those 2 questions in that pillar page. I also want to point out that the other academic content pillar is strictly optional for schools to address. Now, below the data analysis question number 1 and root cause analysis question 2 will be the California dashboard indicators. And here schools will select all of the applicable California dashboard indicators that are going to be addressed within a particular pillar page. So for example, in the ELA pillar page, you would select the ELA dashboard indicator. In math, it would be the math indicator, and so on. And each selection, again, is going to display with a check mark and then populate in the box. Now, in this same California dashboard section, schools will also select the focus student groups within a pillar page. For the academic content areas, such as graduation, college, career, ELA, math, EL programs, and other academic content, schools should focus on the student groups that are either very low or low status on the California dashboard. For those of you who have been following the new dashboard release, you'll have noticed that there's a shift in how we're identifying our students. We're no longer, for the current year, using those color combinations that you used to, like red and orange. Instead, it's going to be identification based only on status, which is on a range from very low to low, medium, high, and very high. And so for the academic content areas, you want to focus on the students who are very low or low. Now, it's the opposite for chronic absenteeism and or suspension. The focus there should be on students that are very high or high status in those areas, because we want to bring those numbers down. Now, there's no limit to the number of student groups that can be selected. Again, each selection will display with a check mark and then populate in the box. Now, below the California dashboard section on each of the pillar pages are going to be the measurable objectives. Now, as a reminder, schools will still be required to write 2 different types of measurable objectives in the pillars, implementation and improvement objectives. A minimum of 1 implementation and 1 improvement objective is required per pillar page. Schools will be able to view last year's measurable objectives as a reference when developing their new objectives for 23-24. And it's highly recommended, of course, that throughout the whole plan writing process, you just save frequently anytime you're entering your data into the plan. Now, below the measurable objectives section will be the district priority and strategy selections. This is where another big shift happened for the 23-24 plan. The old focus areas that we used to have, the lesson planning, data analysis, the effective classroom instruction, and the intervention focus areas, those are gone and now have been replaced with a selection for district priority, district strategy, as well as school strategy and school actions. So in each of the pillar pages, schools will select a minimum of one district priority and one district strategy in each pillar page. First, you would click on the Add Remove District Priority and Strategies button, and then select the district priorities that apply from a drop-down menu. Each one, again, is going to display with a check mark, and then eventually it'll populate for you. Once you finish selecting the applicable district priorities, you click on that Apply button. After selecting the district priorities, schools will then select all the applicable district strategies that correspond to the district priorities that they selected. So again, as a refresher, if you've attended some of the regional trainings we've held, your district priority selection determines which district strategies are available to select. So for example, if a school selected priority 1A within academic excellence, which is high quality instruction, then the school will only see the strategies that align to priority 1A as available options to select from. They won't see the strategies that correspond to priority 1B, 1C, or 1D because they didn't select those priorities. So your strategy selection, your priority selection determines your strategy selection that's available. Your strategy selection is going to be a pop-up window, and as you check the box next to each one, and then once you select all your strategies, click the Save button. When you click on that Save button, it's not just going to save your district strategy selections, it will save both the priorities that you selected from the dropdown, as well as the strategies you selected from the pop-up window. And this is what it looks like when you click on that Save button. Your district priorities will display on top, each one on a separate line. And then right below that, your district strategies, and each one again will be on a separate line. Now, right below the district priority and strategy selections are text boxes for the school to enter the school strategy and school actions that are aligned to the district priority and district strategies. The minimum requirement here again is to write one school strategy and school actions aligned to the district priority and district strategy within each pillar page. So on this slide is an example of a school strategy with multiple actions. And as a reminder, we have additional samples of school strategies and actions aligned to district priorities and strategies in our SPSA digital notebook that you hopefully are familiar with if you've been attending your regional trainings. We're going to drop right now a link to that SPSA digital notebook in the chat. If you haven't had a chance to access it, after this training, please take some time to look at the different resources that are available there, including sample school strategies and actions aligned to those district priorities and strategies for each of the pillar pages. Now, below the school strategies and school actions will be the budget section. And one of the nice things about this new 23-24 template is we've gotten rid of that editing pencil where you used to have to click on it to enter your budget information on a different screen, then come back to the main screen where your strategies and actions are. Now the budget information is on the same page where your strategies and actions are going to be. So in the next couple of slides, I'll go over how to enter the information for position items. Okay. Now, in the position items section, we've really pared down the information that schools have to enter here. And so you'll just need to enter a few pieces of information. Number one, the program or funding source, such as, for example, 7S046. You'll also enter the budget item from a drop-down selection. And the platform is pretty intuitive in that if you start to type in either the budget item sequence number or the budget item description, the system will automatically narrow your choices down to budget items that either start with that number sequence or with that description. Okay. And the only other two pieces of information you'll need to enter for the position items will be the funding percentage. The default is always going to be 100%, but you can select from a drop-down other funding percentages for the positions you're budgeting. And then finally, if you know the position number for the specific employee who's going to be in that position, you can type that into the position number box in place of the temporary number that the system will automatically generate. Now, in the next couple of slides, we'll walk through how to add non-position budget items. And the process is really similar. Again, you select your funding source, you select your budget item from the drop-down. And in the case of some non-position items, there's going to be a total cost that you'll need to enter. And some will also have an optional vendor selection. You're not required to select a vendor, but it just helps us track which vendors are being utilized by schools as they're purchasing items in the plan. If you don't see the vendor listed there, there's an option at the very bottom of that dropdown to select other vendor. Now, in some cases, there are non-position items like your itinerants or, for example, your differentials that have a rate type associated with them, such as, for example, number of semesters or increments of a year that you enter the information in, or weeks or days. An example of that is the itinerant counselor position. In the example on the right here, the rate type for the counselor position is in increments of a year. And we show here that we're budgeting for that position for a full year. Again, another example would be differentials. You might budget for a differential for 1 semester or 2 semesters. So you would indicate that information when you're selecting non-budget items that have a rate type associated with them. Now, in this next slide, we'll go over how to add a new school strategy with actions. I mentioned that the minimum requirement is 1 school strategy and school actions per pillar page, but depending on your needs assessment, schools can list multiple strategies and actions within a pillar. To add a new school strategy with actions, you click on that Add New button, and that's going to then give you a banner that says School Strategy with Actions 2. And each time you click on that Add New button, it will display a new banner with a numerical sequence. So School Strategy with Actions 2, 3, 4, and so on. But it's important to note that when you click on that Add New button, you're not just creating a new text box for your school strategies and actions. It's actually going to replicate that entire section again. The drop down for the district priorities, the pop-up for the school strategy, the district strategies, and then the text boxes for your school strategies and school actions, as well as your budget selections for position and non-position items. Okay. Next, before I turn it over to Claire, I'll just talk briefly about potential funding variance or PFV. Similar to this current 22-23 school year, we do anticipate that for 23-24, schools will be expected to budget their own PFV when purchasing positions to account for potential increases in salary or benefits that are associated with those positions. So we're going to continue to provide a PFV calculator table at the bottom of each pillar page that will automatically calculate the required PFV by categorical program fund based on all the positions budgeted in the plan. Now, the table is going to calculate a lump sum total for each program. It's not going to break it down for you by position. And so therefore, we recommend that when you enter your PFV amount in the plan, you select one pillar page and enter the PFV as one lump sum total based on the amount that you see in the table, the required minimum amount. That will make it easier for you to calculate it, because if you try to enter a PFE amount each time you budget a position, the table will not automatically show you the breakdown for each position, so you'll have to come up with that calculation manually. If you just enter all your positions and then see what the total is in the table, you can enter it as one lump sum amount. We recommend putting it in where you have the majority of your positions budgeted in the pillars. Okay. Now, it's important to remind the schools that if you are under budgeted in PFE, that you didn't enter the minimum amount required, you will not be able to submit your plan for review and approval. Now, if you're over budgeted in the PFE, you'll get a blue informational message letting you know you've exceeded your PFE amount required by this amount, but it won't stop you from submitting the plan. But if you're under withheld, you will not be able to submit the plan until you enter the minimum required amount. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Claire to walk you through the second half of this presentation. Okay. Claire, you with us? Okay. While she's getting her mic issue sorted out, I'll start walking you through this next section. And
Can you hear me now, Mohammed?
Yep.
Okay,
Perfect.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a little button on my headset that if you press it, it mutes me. So it's a new headset, so I apologize for that. Anyway, thank you, Mohammed. And I will start with the Title I School-Wide Program Schools ESSA 1114 components for implementation, the Title I Parent and Family Engagement Policy, and the local district monitoring. The principal or the designees can fill out the blue text boxes in the Title I School-Wide Program Schools SL 1114 components for implementation page. Now, when the page is saved, if all those blue text boxes have been filled in, then the school will receive a green check mark for the page in the left side navigation menu. The Title I Parent and Family Engagement Policy gets populated directly from the Parent Portal website. So once your school uploads the documents in the Parent Portal, they will appear in your respective sections. The local district monitoring page can only be completed by your local district director or the COSA, and it is required for the ATSI, CSI, and TSI designated schools. So for the schools that are not ATSI, CSI, or TSI, then the local district director or the COSA can describe any additional services that support your school, or they can just write NA in the blue text box. But the Save button will be disabled for anyone who is not a local district director or a COSA. And next, I'll cover the upload attachments and plan submission processes. So to upload the SSE approval of your SPSA and budget, first you're going to select the SSE approval of SPSA and budget from the Select and Upload drop-down selection, as we show you in number 1 here. Then you're going to click on the Choose File button, and then select your desired file, and then click the Open button. So click the Upload button, and then once the file has been uploaded, you'll see the green text messages that your file was uploaded successfully. And the file name will appear along with the person who uploaded it and the date timestamp. Now, when the school clicks the Submit Plan button, if there are any errors, they're going to display with red text. The errors need to be corrected before your plan can be submitted to the local district reviewers. And in this example, there's only one error. The Resource Inequities and Evidence-Based Interventions page is incomplete. Pages will display with a green check mark when they are completed, and the exceptions to the green check mark are the Graduation, College, and Career pillar page and the Other Academic Content pillar page. The reason is these pages are not required for elementary and middle schools, and all the Other Academic Content pillar page is also optional for all schools. When the plan has been successfully submitted, you'll see a green message, Plan Submitted Successfully. and an email notification will be sent to the local district reviewers to notify them that your school is ready for their approvals. Next, we're going to cover the approval tracking page. As each local district reviewer approves or requires a revision, then the local district's name, reviewer's name will appear with the date of their review. So in this example, the local district Title I coordinator has approved on October 12th of 2022. As each local district reviewer approves or requires a revision, the local district reviewer's name will appear with the date of their review in the school's dashboard. So in this example, the local district Title I coordinator has approved on October 12th of 2022, and his name appears in green. But if he had required a revision, then his name would appear in red. So in this example, excuse me, I'm narrating a training session. Thank you. In this example, the local district reviewer is requiring a revision and his name and date appears in red. Now, although a local district reviewer requires a revision, it doesn't stop other local district reviewers from approving the school's plan. However, it will stop the school from receiving the federal and state education programs, or FSEP, final approval and watermark seal. So in this example, the COSA is requiring a revision and his name and date appears in red. But once the school receives the COSA's approval and his name appears in green, then the SPSA is ready for the federal and state education program final approval. Now, for the pilot schools, adding an existing position. To select existing positions, you're going to click the Select Existing Positions button as we show you in this left side of the screen. And basically, these are positions that the school purchased last year, and we need to know if you're going to roll them over this year or if you're going to close them. So the right side tells you what to do. Your existing SFE positions pop-up form is going to open, and it'll display your existing positions in the order of the sequence number, the far left column. Next to it, sequence number program. You'll see the last column on the right side of the screen, position status pillar page, and that will tell you if the position is currently closed or active. Positions that are closed are highlighted in gray bar, and they display a button Reopen. By clicking the Reopen button, you can change the status to active. Positions that are displayed with a white background are selectable positions, which schools can purchase again this year in the pillar page, or they can be closed. So in this example, we see two positions that are displayed with a white background, which means they're selectable, and we selected sequence number 12, the teacher assistant, with a position control number 303 for 2032. So we're going to click the Add Positions to the pillar page button, and it will add it to the current pillar page. Or we can click the Close the Position button to close the position, or we can click the Close window to do nothing. Now we want to mention to you that I could have also selected sequence number 13, and that was also another teacher assistant. But I can select number 13, say in a different pillar page. So depending on which pillar page I'm in, that will determine if you add that position, that's where that position will be. So in this example, again, on your right-hand side, the school has added sequence number 12 with that same position control number 303 for 2032 to the current pillar page. A message will appear in green text, position added to the pillar page successfully. The teacher assistant position, again, the same control number, appears in the position items section. And now we want you to look at the total cost. It shows 0. Second side, to update the cost of the teacher assistant position and sync it with the SFE to get the current cost, we're going to click on the Get Total Cost button. If there's any errors, they'll display below the Get Total Cost button, and those errors will need to be corrected before the school can submit the budget for approval. And in this case, we show that there was an incorrect SACS number entered. So your fiscal specialist would need to assist you in getting the correct SACS. And now I'm going to cover the pilot school's budget summary. So the pilot school needs to make sure that there are no budget shortfalls before they submit their budget to their local district reviewers for approvals. These budget shortfalls are displayed with a red line that shows negative totals beneath your 40261 pending distribution line. The green line indicates that there are no budget shortfalls. And now I'm going to cover the pilot school budget submission. So to submit the budget to the local district reviewers for approvals, you click the Validate Budget Items button. Now, if there are no errors, then a green text appears, Budget Items Validated Successfully. Errors will be displayed beneath the button and they must be corrected before the budget can be submitted. And in the second slide here, a red error message will appear when the school clicks the Validate Budget Items to inform the school that there is at least one or more positions that have not been made active, meaning they were rolled over or closed. So every continuing position must be selected as active or closed within any pillar page before the school can request the fiscal specialist review. So if any positions are funded with less than 100% of the categorical funds, then you'll see a blue informational message, and it will not prevent your school from submitting the budget. It is just a reminder that there's a remaining portion of the funding that needs to be funded from another fund. To request the fiscal specialist to review the budget, click the Request Specialist Review button. Note that your school cannot notify your fiscal specialist the budget is ready if there is more than $100 in any program funds pending distribution 40261 line. When the fiscal specialist review email has been sent successfully, a green message displays that the email has been sent successfully. The fiscal specialist will respond to you via email or a phone call, and they'll advise the school if there's any corrections that need to be made before the school can notify the local district reviewers that the budget is ready for their approvals. Finally, the bottom slide, after the fiscal specialist has responded and they've let the school know that the budget is okay, then the school can notify the local district reviewers that the budget is ready for their approvals. Simply click the Notify Local District Approver that the budget is ready for approval button, and you'll see a green message, email has been sent successfully. As each local district approver reviews the budget and checks the box, all budgets approved or revision required, then their signature and the date will appear in your approval tracking page. When the last local district approver approves the budget for each categorical fund, then the budget gets submitted to the fiscal specialist for posting. Now, each fund can be posted successfully or they could be rejected by the fiscal specialist. So the local district approver's electronic approval for the rejected program fund will be removed. So in other words, we remove the electronic signatures whenever a fund is rejected. And here we show you in the first slide that the PACE program was rejected by the fiscal for program 70046. So the SAP system will send an email notification to the principal and the local district approver whose budget was rejected. The online SPSA through SFV will send an email notification to the principal for the successful posting along with the school budget signature form as an attachment. And again, we can see just above that PACE rejection, the Title I program for S046 has been submitted. So you'll see each of these display as you submit and they get approved or they get rejected in your approval tracking page. So after each fund in the SPSA budget has been posted successfully in Coffee, the program funds document number from the SAP system will appear. So you'll see this document number, and it's maybe 10 digits or more by program that will appear again in your approval tracking page in the budget section. An email notification will be sent to the principal along with the school budget signature form as an attachment. Now, the pilot school's SPSA plan budget approval process is displayed in the Pilot Budget tab on your SPSA dashboard. If the budget status is school submitted, then as each LD reviewer approves, the box will display with the date of their submission and the LD reviewer's name and date on a green background. When the fiscal specialist posts an SFE, then his or her name will display with a green background according to the fund. So in other words, there's a fiscal specialist for each fund. You'll notice there's a Title I fiscal specialist approver, a PACE fiscal specialist approval, and an EL fiscal specialist approver. Now, if any LD reviewer requires a revision, or if the fiscal specialist rejects the budget, the LD reviewer's name or the fiscal specialist name will display with a red background. And we see here that there are no red backgrounds, but if someone rejected, you would see red there. And now I'm going to cover the comments process. The LD reviewers can create a new comment, or they can reply to an existing comment in the comment bubble associated with the pages section. Simply click the Save button. If an LD reviewer has more comments to address for the same school, the LD reviewer can address all the comments for that school, or keep track of the school and address additional schools' comments for as many schools as is necessary. When the LD reviewer clicks the Save button, comments are sent to the school's SPSA Plan Dashboard Comments tab section. Saved comments are highlighted in green in the Comments page. The comments are filtered automatically by the school as soon as they're saved. So in this example, the local district reviewer created a comment in Albion Street Elementary, and it displays in green, again showing you the LD reviewer's view. Second slide, to view comments for all schools, the local district reviewer needs to click the Reset button, and now you can see all of the school's comments. And finally, the last slide here, when an LD reviewer has completed all of these school comments, navigate to the SPSA Dashboard's Comments page. And here we show you a split view. The local district reviewer's view is on top and the school's view is on the bottom. The school will see an orange colored message from the LD reviewer, and the LD reviewer will see a green colored message that was sent to the school. Note that the Save button doesn't send an email to the school. The LD reviewer's messages are stored in the database until the LD reviewer instructs the online SPSA to send them aggregately in one email message. And we'll show you this later in the comments presentation. The schools can view new comment messages on their Plan Comments dashboard. The comments will have an orange background. The school principal and/or his designees can click on the local district reviewer's name, and it will link to the SPSA page, and then they simply scroll down to locate any orange flashing comment bubbles. Now, school principals and the designees should, number one, click on the flashing orange bubble to open the comments from the local district reviewers. And then number two, click on reviewer type. You may have more than one reviewer there. You could have a PACE comment or a Title I comment. So you always want to click on the reviewer type, even if there's only one, and then read the message in the request text box, and then reply in the response text box. Now, schools principals or their designees need to use the scroll bar on the right side of the comments window to scroll down all the way and make sure that all of the comments have been read and that your responses have been sent. A school can't click that send button until all the comments show a reply in that response text box. Finally, the bottom slide, there may be more than one local district reviewer making comments on the same page. So you principals and designees need to click on the reviewer type of each reviewer to view all of their comments and then respond accordingly. Now, if the school principal or the designee has responded to all the local district comments, then he can click the send button and it will reply. The message bubble is going to turn green whenever they respond to the local district reviewer's comment. So you'll see green bubble here. And again, we have another split view. Here we have the school's view on top and the local district reviewer's view on the bottom. The school will see a green colored message once they've responded to the LD reviewer's comment in the plan comments column, and their SPSA page will also display a green message bubble. The LD reviewer will see an orange colored message that was received from the school. So to view the school's response, the LD reviewer clicks on the plan comments. And now when all of the responses to the comments are completed, the LD reviewer marks the comment bubble as complete. The bubble turns purple and the school knows there are no more pending comments from the LD reviewer. Again, a split view, school's view is on the top, local district reviewer's view is on the bottom. The school will see a purple bubble in the page, and the SPSA plan dashboard will display purple in the SPSA dashboard plan comments column whenever a comment string's been marked completed by the LD reviewer. Now, the LD reviewer would also see a purple message in their plan dashboard. All the reviewers within the same local district can see each other's comments in the plan comment bubbles as long as they're the same reviewer type. So for example, local district Title I coordinator X can see and respond to all of local district Title I coordinator Y's comments, and Y can see and respond to all of X's. This makes it easier for you reviewers to fill in for each other in case there's an extended absence or vacation or some other type of a leave. But we do want to mention that the most recent commenter's name will always display as a name that accommodates the reviewer type. When the schools don't respond to the LD reviewer's comments in a timely manner, then the LD reviewer can send an email to the school to remind them. Only the green pages are selectable in your session column. So to send them, you simply check the schools that you want to send the email to, and then click the Notify School button. One email will be sent to each school with all the pages where comments are pending. And here we show you in this second slide that there's 2 pages that need to be commented: school vision and mission statement and profile description, and the resource inequities and evidence-based interventions. And then we have instructions for the schools to follow on how to respond to these. And finally, the last slide, the notification date will update to today's date for each school that the LD reviewer has selected. And that way you can keep a record of when you sent the emails and then track the school's response. Now we have some new features and some SPSA resources for this year's budget development. The expandable menu feature is new for SPSA 23-24. You'll notice that your left navigation menu is visible before you click the menu button. As soon as you do click it, then your left navigation menu disappears. And this is convenient now if you want more real estate showing, let's say that you're entering a lot of text into, say, one of your district strategies, descriptions, or school's actions or school strategy. It's nice to have that extra room. Now, to make your left navigation menu visible, simply click the menu button again. New for your local district reviewers is the separate search and filter and the notifications pages. So the filters are selected from drop-down list boxes, and then the search school text box was moved to the center of the page. Now the functionality is still the same. We simply moved it to the center of the page. And again, only one single selection can be made from each of these drop-down selections. The SPSA notifications page displays the schools and the dates of their SPSA plan submissions. So the LD reviewer can have a bird's eye view of all the schools that have submitted their plans. And finally, the resources page is located in your left navigation menu. For you veterans, that used to be the atomic symbol in the upper right-hand ribbon, but now it has a place in our left navigation menu, and it contains the resources for your LAUSD platforms, your non-LAUSD platforms, parent engagement and evidence-based interventions, and many other additional resources. Also, the FSEPA website has resources for your SPSA as well. And we have a live link here on this particular slide. You can go to their website there and then click on the school plan for student achievement SPSA. And then you're going to click on the budget planning for 23-24 and then select budget planning resources. And then you have the SPSA support contacts. We're still listing them by the local districts. And finally, we ask you to complete our training evaluation using this link. I believe someone will be dropping it into the chat box. Please take a moment and fill it in so that we can evaluate our training sessions and make improvements as required. Thank you. I'll return it back to Mohammed.
Thank you, Claire, and thank you everyone for joining us for this presentation. Before we open it up for questions, let me just go ahead and stop the recording.